Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream Queen Size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal Queen Size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in and happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Had a wonderful Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. Hope your family took you out to lunch and had some presents for you. It was a great day. I went to church with Nana Hudson, and we had lunch, and just a wonderful day honoring my wonderful mother. Hope you did too. A lot of breaking news to cover today. According to top Trump administration officials, the U.S. and China have agreed on a deal to help resolve the trade war between the world's two largest economies. We have the latest details in today's show. And this is big, folks. President Trump announced on Truth Social yesterday that he will sign an executive order that will slash drug prices by up to 80%. And this is expected to happen today. A Florida dad who paid $1,400 for his family of 5 for a day at Disney World says he felt punished by the park and it's not worth it. And a New York Times columnist is urging Joe Biden to not fight an old battle after last week's start of a media tour that did not have a good start for Mr. Biden.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Looks like Big Pharma might want to buckle up because President Donald Trump is getting ready to drop a legislative hammer, as one reporter described it. According to the New York Post, it's all going down later this morning at 9 a.m. in the White House. Folks, if you've been feeling the pain at the pharmacy counter, and let's be honest, who hasn't, you're going to want to hear this. President Trump announced on Truth Social that he's signing a brand new executive order that will slash prescription drug prices by as much as 80%. That's 80. And he's not just talking about savings down the road. He says those price cuts are going to hit almost immediately. So how's he going to do this? He says for years, Americans have been paying 5 to 10 times more than people in other countries for the exact same drugs made in the exact same factories. He's asking the question, why? Because the system was rigged, he says. The drug companies claimed it was to cover research and development, but Trump called it a scam funded by the suckers of America, he said. Well, not anymore after today. This morning, he's signing an executive order that will implement what's called a most favored nation policy. That means that the U.S. will pay no more than the lowest price offered to any country on the planet. You know what that is? That's Trump turning to the drug giants and saying, we're done being played. And here's the kicker. He says it'll save American taxpayers trillions of dollars. That's not just some pocket change. That's historic, if in fact this happens. So let's think about this for a minute. Let's drill down a bit. Remember last month when President Trump signed another executive order that standardized Medicare payments for cancer drugs and more? That one could cut prices up to 60%. He's also moved to cap insulin prices for low-income and uninsured folks to just 3 cents. I mean, when's the last time anything cost 3 cents? Injectable epinephrine down to $15. Now, that's a life-saving medication for people with severe allergies. If you or your child or loved one has ever needed an EpiPen, you know what a game changer that is. And he's not stopping there. President Trump's latest order also cracks open the door for states to import cheaper drugs from abroad. If you can get them from another area, another country, have at it. It gives Medicaid programs more tools to negotiate better prices, especially for diseases like sickle cell anemia that disproportionately affects communities of color. Now, here's the part I really want you to think about. President Trump isn't just talking about fixing this for Medicare recipients. He's talking about rebalancing the entire system, bringing fairness to American consumers, finally, everybody. Now, let me say something about leadership here, because back when Democrats talked about bringing down drug prices, remember that? Remember how Joe Biden talked about making pharmaceuticals affordable for everybody? They blamed Republicans at the time. They blamed insurance companies. They talked a lot about equity, but they never actually got it done. They wrote checks with their mouths and their promises and tried to put the blame on everybody else. But here with President Trump, he's cutting the red tape. He's actually doing it. He even took a swipe at Democrats in his post, saying this is something they fought for years but never actually delivered. And he's right. And now you've got folks like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over at Health and Human Services, who's already working on getting feedback from the public on Medicare drug price negotiation programs. There's even talk of aligning prices paid by hospitals with what they actually pay for those drugs, up to 35% less than what Medicare has been getting gouged for. We've all known that the healthcare system is all about the money. And I get that. They have to make a profit. These drug companies, they do put in the research. They invest up front. But there's nothing fair about the idea that the American public, the American consumer, are paying outrageous prices for drugs that are being sold for a lot less in other parts of the world. So let me ask you this. What's not to like here about what President Trump is going to propose today? Are you tired of seeing billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies raise prices faster than inflation, while middle-class Americans have to ration their medication, or in some cases not even have it at all? Now, again, I'm all for these companies making money. They make money, they can put more back into research, and we have some of the best in the world. I get that. But there has to be a balance. How can they afford to sell it for half the price somewhere else in the world? That's what I've never understood. And I'm tired of politicians promising relief at every election cycle. How many times have we heard that? Joe Biden talked about it all the time. Well, you're not alone. None of us are. President Trump is standing up to the industry that's gotten fat off of American wallets, and now he's slamming the door on this just totally absurd system. So what's next? 9 a.m. this morning, according to the White House. That's when the ink hits the page. It could mark the start of the biggest reset in prescription drug pricing that we have ever seen. And we'll be watching very closely, and we'll tell you all about it on this show. The U.S. and China have agreed to a deal to help resolve the trade war that has been raging between the world's two largest economies. This, according to the Trump administration last night. Details of the deal, which were struck during negotiations in Switzerland over the weekend, were not revealed, but officials tease that more information will be shared today, Monday. In a statement by U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, he said the U.S. has a massive $1.2 trillion trade deficit, so the president declared a national emergency. We're confident that the deal we struck with our Chinese partners will help us work towards resolving that national emergency. President Trump has imposed tariffs, as you know, of up to 145% on goods from China. And with China then slapping retaliatory tariffs on American exports. It truly has been a trade war over these past, few weeks. Greer joined Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Liefeng for the talks in Geneva, Switzerland over the weekend to address the triple-digit tariff. Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, said, "I can tell you that the talks were very productive, but not giving any details." The announcement, of course, comes after the Trump administration unveiled a framework for a trade deal with the United Kingdom just last week. China is America's third largest trading partner, has long drawn criticism from Trump over its practices, including exporting deadly fentanyl, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and many, many more. Some estimates have pegged annual Chinese IP theft from the U.S. at $225 to $600 billion annually. That has to stop. And I got a feeling that's going to be part of this deal. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan. No Ozempic, no shots, no meds. Look, I refuse to rely on prescriptions for life, and you probably feel the same. Joey Hudson here. Here's what Big Pharma won't tell you. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the hormone that fights hunger. PhD helps your body produce it naturally, faster, and without side effects. With PhD, there's no muscle loss, no rebound weight gain, and no cravings. Just real, lasting weight loss the natural way. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. It takes 5 minutes and shows what's really happening inside your body. You'll walk out knowing how to flip your fat-burning switch. No shots needed. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma and without the drugs. Plus 15% off when you fully commit to your program and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now 864-644-1900. Start today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Well, there's one dad who is not a happy mouseketeer after a day at Disney World. This is the story of a father of three. His video has gone viral about how Walt Disney World cost his family over $1,400 for one day, and he says it's just not worth it. In a TikTok video that's been viewed literally millions of times now, Craig Stoll said that a trip to the Orlando theme park with his wife and 3 kids blew up his wallet for only a bit of enjoyment when faced with the never-ending stream of lines at Disney. He said, "I don't want to say it this way, but if you do the average cost per ride, it probably isn't really worth it." He said of his experience at the happiest place on earth that didn't turn out to be so happy. Here's his assessment of the day at Mickey's house.
What a day at Disney cost me for a family of 5. Before we even got into the park, it cost me $30 just for parking. And even being a Florida resident, tickets for a family of 5 with one child under 10 was still $974. Paying for the Lightning Lane was $35 per person and only would have given us speed access to 3 rides, so we opted out of that. Right after our first ride, we bought 2 waters and 3 ice creams. This totaled $29.50. After the second ride, they wanted a pretzel and I wanted a beer. This was another $19. This guy right here wanted a lightsaber for $44.99, but I was a hard no. After that, it was time for lunch, so we went to the Brown Derby where we could sit down for a little bit and order a decent meal. They didn't like the options and the prices were outrageous, so we left and went somewhere else. We each ended up with a small pizza, each had a side and a small drink, totaling $44.35. After lunch, we took off, awaited more lines, and we also met a few characters along the way. Once we got to Star Wars Land, we had to buy some blue milk for $10.29. It tasted like a slushie with nerds on top. We took a few minutes to meet Kylo Ren.
Your courage will be tested and rewarded.
The kids then snuck away and bought some Star Wars Coca-Cola. This was $6.50, but this guy said it was worth it. After the next ride, we went and had a churro, a water, and a margarita. It had been a long day at this point. That margarita was well needed. This was another $36. And just as I thought the day was finally over, the rest of the family decided they want to go to dinner at downtown Disney Springs. This place was my literal hell. It was shoulder to shoulder in every store and restaurant. We ended up at the Formata Cocina for some Mexican food. $30 for carnitas, $19 margarita, $8 corn, $30 carne asada, and then each of the kids with drinks and food were an additional $30 to $40 each, totaling $245.27 for dinner. There was some sticker shock here, and right after that, they all wanted to go shop. Luckily, it was getting late, and we decided to not go into any stores. The grand total for our day was $1,391.91.
This frustrated dad, as you heard, said he spent $974 for single-day tickets, and that's with the Florida resident discount. He went on to talk about how they tried to upsell him the Disney, like the I forget what they call it, the fast pass, where you can kind of get through. You don't have to wait in line as long. He skipped on that. According to reports, Disney has raised prices for its theme parks in recent years with the cost of single-day, single-park tickets ranging anywhere from $119 to $199 for the 2025 season. And it comes following internal surveys that reportedly showed a decline in the number of guests planning return visits to Disney. This was done in 2023 because they're unhappy with the experience. The long waits, so you don't get to ride as many rides and participate in as many of the attractions, plus the outrageous prices now. The company recently announced that prices would increase again in the 2026 season. As Disney offers discounts and better pricing for multi-day stays, Stoll says it is apparent, he believes, that the company is favoring long-term guests over local families and day trippers. You can buy like a season pass. I have some friends who have an annual pass, and they can go as many times as they want. And if you live in the area, that's probably a good route to go. Now, I have no idea how that compares to just a single-day pass like this family did. Mr. Stoll said, unfortunately, I don't think those day trippers are what Disney wants. They want you to never leave the park. They want you there for 5 days. They want you to drop $10,000. So I think that one-day trip, I've actually been punished for it. And maybe so. I mean, look, these parks, they have this down to a science. Maybe they would prefer for you not to come for a single day. Now, look, Disney's been accused of a lot lately. Disney has had with all the woke stuff, the DEI stuff, they've taken a beating these last couple of years. They've previously been accused of being addicted to raising prices that push the limits out of working class families' budgets. Stoll said that he was glad his video went viral to demonstrate the struggle families are going through when trying to create memories together. But he was still taken aback, he said, by just how much support he has received online. And this is the kind of story people love. People, and I looked it up on TikTok, and I saw a lot of the comments, and they were very common themes. That they were just really astounded at Disney for costing so much. But hey, I don't know that you can blame it on Disney, can you? If you just feel like you didn't get your value, then don't go back. And be forewarned, if you're considering going to Disney, then do your research. Look at some of the comments that this guy, a lot of people were agreeing with him. A lot of people were saying, yeah, we did the same thing. We had the same bad experience. It cost us a fortune, and we felt like that we really didn't get to see a lot of the park because the lines are so long. That's what I hate about any theme park, is having to wait in some of the long. They should have a limit, and maybe they do, but they should have a cap on the number of people that go into the park so that you don't have to wait in line literally for 30, 40 minutes, an hour. Because it does cut down on the amount of time that you can spend doing the things that you enjoy. And boy, the prices at some of the restaurants, now I haven't been in several years. I probably would really have sticker shock. But I do remember the last time I went, and it's been some years ago, that it was very expensive, and it was just pegging me. And we were with some friends. He said, I kind of had a feeling that talking about his video, I kind of had a feeling that it would go viral. It's very relatable. It's family friendly. Disney's always a hot topic, and we're all trying to pinch pennies. He said, so I kind of had an idea that people would be able to relate to it, just maybe not so much. And look, he is right. For all those families out there who just want to have a fun, affordable vacation with their family, and they get stuck with something like this, of course it's relatable. I just hope Disney is listening, and maybe they'll make some changes. Last week, I told you about Joe Biden's media tour, even shared some of the clips with you of his appearance on The View. Well, New York Times columnist David Brooks, who is kind of a fan of Joe Biden, or at least supports him, he urged the former president not to fight what he called an old battle during a conversation about Biden's return to the public eye this past week. Brooks told PBS NewsHour that if Joe Biden ever called him to ask, what he should do with his post-presidency, that he would tell the former president to be post-political, rise above it, and don't get back in. Don't try to fight old battles. Now, he's referencing not only Biden's appearance on The View, but he also was spoke to BBC. Last week, of course, he talked about the 2024 election. He's blaming former Vice President Kamala Harris's loss on sexism and racism. Biden also answered questions about his alleged cognitive decline and maintained that he could have beaten Trump. Now, that in itself should prove that something's not quite right with Joe Biden if he thinks that he could have beaten Donald Trump. You know, he'll go to his grave thinking that, won't he? Joe Biden has just enough ego to think that, yes, Trump trounced Kamala Harris, but had Biden not been pushed out of the race, if Biden had stayed in the race, if his Democrat buddies hadn't kicked him out, he could have beaten Trump. He could have taken him. Biden claimed that Trump used race and sexism to win last November. This is part of his conversation last week on The View.
But, Mr. President, last time you were here was a little over a month before the election, and you had made the selfless and very difficult decision, I'm sure, to step aside. And Democrats were feeling optimistic about the vice president's chances of winning the presidency. But then election night came, and it was like 2016 all over again. Yeah. So why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president, and she is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. Right. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman, she's this, she's that. I mean, it really, I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race. Yeah. And they played that to a fairly well. In addition,
wow, he still has trouble completing sentences, doesn't he? Did all that make sense to you? Did you have trouble following what Joe Biden was trying to say? Why would they put him back out there? Why would he put himself through that? PBS NewsHour host Jeff Bennett asked David Brooks if there was any strategic value in saying that he would have beaten the sitting president following his former vice president's failed attempt. Here's David Brooks' response.
Strategic value in saying that out loud right now?
You know, I think he's empirically wrong about that. You know, Kamala Harris ran about as good a campaign as she could. She was saddled with the Biden legacy, an unpopular presidency. Biden would have been saddled by that legacy in addition to his age. So you take those two factors, it's hard to see how he wins. But he's a man with he's a proud man with a chip on his shoulder who feels himself under attack, frankly, in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And so he wants to stand up for himself. I would only counsel him as someone who's a longtime admirer of Joe Biden, is that what we want from our presidents is not more politics. What we want from our presidents is somebody who's post-politics, who can speak to us from a higher level, not in the partisan mud. And Jimmy Carter did that. I think George W. Bush has done that through his painting. You know, you do a book of paintings about immigrants. You do a book of paintings about veterans. You've expressed a set of values without being political. And if Joe Biden never called me to say, what should you do with the post-presidency, which is probably not going to happen.
You never know.
You never know. And I would say be post-political, rise above it, and don't get back in. Don't try to fight old battles.
Now, you may recall from last week during Biden's interview, he pushed back on criticism that Kamala Harris didn't have enough time to run an effective campaign, alleging that she had 6 months to do so. Now, the former vice president only had 90 days. Joe Biden got that time period confused again. The New York Times columnist suggested that Biden should avoid partisan mud. When pressed by The View, co-host Alyssa Farah Griffin on several allegations of cognitive decline in multiple new books about the 2024 election. I'm reading a couple of them now. Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden fired back, saying they're wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, think of what we left with. We left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started, not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. 1 million people dying. Now, Joe Biden is still blaming Donald Trump over the deaths during COVID. It's the most crazy, ludicrous thing I've ever heard. When, by the way, most of them died under his watch. He went on to say, and we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, which I won't go into because of the interest of time. So we went to work and we got it done. And you know what? One of the things, and he kind of stopped there. The former First Lady jumped in, saying one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us. She said, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day's work. Now, we know that's not true. I mean, we've already had people confirm who worked in the White House that they didn't schedule anything for Joe Biden until later in the morning. And then they didn't schedule it too late in the afternoon. So we know he didn't jump up every morning and do a full day's work. Do they think that we're just idiots? That we don't remember this? Wow. Look, he needs to call David Brooks from the New York Times and ask David Brooks for his advice, because I think that's a good idea. Joe Biden should stay at home. The only reason he's out there is because he's trying to land some of these $300,000 speaking gigs. I don't think it's going to work. Who would want to pay $300,000 to hear the man mumble? Because that's about all you get. Is he can't even read his teleprompter. Go home, stay on the beach, Joe. By the way, did you see the story over the weekend about these Democrat lawmakers who were arrested for storming an ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey? They're actually saying that they were justified in doing so. They're arguing that President Trump's administration is weaponizing law enforcement. It was Representative LaMonica McIver, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Rob Menendez, all Democrats from New Jersey. They made the comments during a joint appearance on CNN State of the Union yesterday. Coleman said chaos ensued when someone on the phone above the leaders of ICE who were with us at that facility instructed them to go out of the facility, go to the private property, and lock the mayor of the largest city in the state of New Jersey up. That's absurd. That's un-American, they said. The three lawmakers stormed Delaney Hall Detention Center in Newark last week in an incident that was caught on video. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was also present and was arrested and charged with trespassing. Authorities claimed an ICE agent was assaulted in the confrontation, which was caught on camera. I mean, you can see it. It's online. You can go back and watch it right now. McIver responded to accusations from the Department of Homeland Security that she body slammed law enforcement officers during the incident. She told CNN's Dana Bash, "I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone." Well, you were just out of camera's range, probably. Menendez argued that it was the responsibility of the ICE officers and other law enforcement to ensure the situation didn't get out of hand. Well, how was he supposed to do that, Representative Menendez? How was he supposed to keep you from getting out of hand? He actually did by locking up the mayor when the mayor was getting out of hand. I mean, what would you have expected if it had been anyone but the mayor? You'd have wanted them arrested, wouldn't you? Menendez said there were a lot of opportunities for DHS, for ICE to de-escalate the situation. They chose not to. It's something that should really shock all Americans. Well, what about the protesters? If you wanted the situation to de-escalate, what duty and responsibility do the protesters, like the mayor, have in de-escalating the situation? Now, while the lawmakers objected to ICE detentions, they also admitted that they saw evidence that the inmates were well treated and living in good conditions inside of the facility. See, the protest was meritless. During a press conference after the incident, Miss McIver claimed that she was assaulted by multiple ICE officers while regional directors of ICE watched it happen. These people are just loony, aren't they? They're just totally insane. They're nuts. DHS footage posted to X Saturday appears to show McIver barreling unprovoked through law enforcement near the gate trying to break in. Wow. Lock 'em up, as they like to say. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Have you been following this story of the potential new Air Force One? Seeing a Democrat is threatening to investigate the Qatar Air Force One gift to President Donald Trump. The president fired back at what he called the world-class losers rejecting a temporary freebie in the name of politics, talking about how this would save unnecessary costs on American taxpayers. In a Sunday night post on Truth Social, which is, of course, the president's favored method of communicating with people, he wrote, "So the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge, all caps, of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers, MAGA," he said. Now, this post, of course, came after Representative Richie Torres demanded a probe into the Trump administration accepting a luxury jet, apparently a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet, worth approximately $400 million from Qatar to serve as Air Force One. This according to Axios and a report yesterday. The New York Democrat wrote to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, the Acting Department of Defense Inspector General, and the Office of Government Ethics requesting an investigation of the gift. The Qatari government acknowledged discussions between the two countries about, quote, the possible transfer of a plane to be used temporarily as Trump's Air Force One, but denied the jet is being gifted or that a final decision has been made. ABC News first reported that Trump will use the aircraft as his presidential plane until shortly before he leaves office in January 2029, when ownership will be transferred to the foundation overseeing his soon-to-be-built, I would assume, presidential library. The gift was expected to be announced when Trump visits Qatar, according to ABC's report, as part of a trip that also includes stops in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, the first extended foreign travel of his second term. But hours after the news, Qatar's media said in a statement, reports that a jet is being gifted by Qatar to the United States government during the upcoming visit of President Trump are inaccurate. The possible transfer of an aircraft for temporary use as Air Force One is currently under consideration between Qatar's Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Department of Defense, the statement said, but the matter remains under review by the respective legal departments and no decision has been made. Now, the whole reason that this is even being discussed is you may recall that Boeing is way behind on contracts to produce two new Air Force One 747s that Donald Trump signed the deal back when he was in his first term. They still don't have them completed, and the most recent delays announced has said that they probably will not be delivered now until after President Trump leaves this term. More than 4 years. And they were supposed to have been delivered last year. Boeing should be required to pay a huge penalty to the American government for their delay. So, look, President Trump just wants a new airplane. So I guess Qatar, and I've seen photos of supposedly what the aircraft looks like. Looks very nice. What do you think about this? Should the United States government accept this? If, in fact, Qatar offers it, should we accept it? We'll see. Some good news. The last living American hostage held by Hamas in Gaza is coming home to his family, according to a post or an announcement from President Trump last night. Eden Alexander. Trump wrote again on True Social. You can find out a lot on True Social. I'm happy to announce that Eden Alexander, an American citizen who has been held hostage since October 2023, is coming home to his family. I'm grateful to all those involved in making this monumental news happen. Boy, this is just an answer to prayer. Thank goodness. And I know that this family, they want to get their loved one back. The president's statement came after it was reported earlier that Hamas said it was willing to release Alexander. He's 21 years old, Israeli-American citizen from New Jersey, as part of new intensified efforts to achieve a ceasefire, open border crossings, and allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Hamas agreed to free Alexander after mediators assured them that the American release would go a long way to get Trump's favor and help end the war in Gaza. As of last night, true Hamas officials told the Associated Press they anticipate the release will happen in the next 48 hours. So maybe sometime today or tomorrow. President Trump also said on True Social that Alexander's freedom could lead to the end of the bloody conflict in Gaza between Israel and Hamas that started after the terror group attacked the Jewish state on October 7th, 2023. He said this was a step taken in good faith towards the United States and the efforts of the mediators, Qatar, and Egypt to put an end to this very brutal war and return all living hostages and remains to their loved ones. Hopefully, this is the first of those final steps necessary to end this brutal conflict. I look very much forward to that day of celebration. And it will be a day of celebration for sure. Also, in other news, President Trump yesterday urged Ukraine to immediately meet with Russia for peace talks without first securing a ceasefire deal, just as President Putin had suggested. The Russian president proposed direct talks with Kyiv on Thursday in Turkey, aimed at ending the war in Ukraine, which has spanned for more than 3 years since the Kremlin's invasion. Trump posted on True Social, Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And if it's not, European leaders and the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. He said, I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who's too busy celebrating the victory of World War II, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now, the president said in all caps. Ukrainian President Zelensky responded online that he is open to holding this powwow with Moscow. But he showed trepidation given Putin's repeated refusal to make any concessions in the stalled peace talks that have been brokered by the U.S. Zelensky and his officials stressed that a ceasefire needs to be reached first and foremost before any talks could commence between Kyiv and Moscow. Look, this hasn't worked so far. And I'm with President Trump. Let's try and do this and get it over. You have nothing to lose. Insisting on a ceasefire up at this point has not worked. So let's try a different tactic here, President Zelensky. Zelensky wrote in his statement, we'll await a full and lasting ceasefire starting from tomorrow to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy. There's no point in prolonging the killings. I agree with that, but look, you have nothing to lose. Wouldn't it be great if we got the last American hostage back from Hamas and we're able to get a ceasefire, get this war ended with Ukraine all in the same week? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.